And then when we have a look at the flight model changes, there is a bunch of bug fixes for pretty much all of them when you just have a look through them. You know, the Reggiani 2005 is probably going to be the biggest change. It got hammered in BR and hammered in performance. The climb rate has been changed to the values of serial vehicles, 6,000 meters in 6 minutes 30. Time of the execution of the established bend at 1,000 meters has also been increased by 1 second, so 19 seconds on web, 20 seconds by 100%, and battery rating has also been changed to 5.3. This is a big change, and I'm going to have to see how the Reggiani does. For Naval, there was a ton of changes, not just for ammunition, but also for the general damage that ships take, and obviously it's all depending on which models you are looking at. And also modifications have been changed. The 1924 Jaguar, the modification of the targeting speed of the auxiliary artillery has been fixed from anti-aircraft to the auxiliary one, which is nice. And then there are some general changes to Naval as well. Hull brake. So naval vessel hull brake parameters have been revised, so this is very important. It can now be done by shells with sufficient blast force. For small boats, it is therefore dangerous to be hit from 100mm caliber and higher HE shells. Hull brake parameters are directly dependent on the size of the boat, so the larger the hull, the greater shell will be required to break it. It should also be noticed that some weak 100mm shells may not be able to cope with this. So remember, hull brake, it's still a 100mm caliber gun or more will hull brake machines, but they've added now more parameters to it, making it more precise for naval. So if you have a big enough boat, hopefully such as like an AFD1 or a D3, which before would just get hull broken by just getting hit by 100mm, now hopefully they'll be able to actually eat a bit more damage. They've also changed how shrapnel works, so the damage model of damage made by shrapnel has been fixed. Shrapnel distribution diagrams for all ship shells have been reworked. Calculation of armor penetration. Damage and radius of shrapnel hits have been recalculated for more realism. The total number of fragments that one shell can produce has also been fixed. And then HE shells as well. A bug with a HE shell could blow up the magazine of almost any undamaged ship has been fixed. The impact of a HE shell to the ship has been reworked to be more realistic. HE shells have received a greater ignition property, and the shrapnel damage has been corrected. They've also changed ship construction. Due to everything described above, changes were made to the characteristics of the ship's construction. The thickness of the unarmored sides, superstructures, bulkheads, and interior partitions have been corrected so that the explosion and secondary fragments can interact with them correctly, can penetrate in accordance with their energy, and deal adequate damage. So overall, they've changed a lot when it comes to how ships generally function, and these are overall changes instead of just individual changes. If there's a specific ship that you're interested in, make sure to Control F that, so therefore you can just have a look. Also, for large caliber guns, they've also added an animation for the automatic ejection of the spent casings. So this has been implemented on a bunch of turrets in the historical prototypes, which is pretty cool as well. Economy research is probably the next one that we can have a look at, and this is important because it's mainly just BR changes. The T55AM is going down to 8.3. I disagree with this decision. I don't see the T55AM as equal to the T55A. I don't really see it as equal to the T62 either, but I feel like the T55AM is in a difficult position, just like stuff such as the Type 62 G is it going to be as well in this update. The fact is, 9.0 and 9.3 is incredibly strong for a lot of nations. That's where a lot of the premium sits when it comes to their thermal visioning, and also there are specific nations such as Germany, which their 9.0 lineup is ludicrous. You know, it's got a nerf in this update, as you can see with the KPZ, but it'll still be incredibly strong. With all their 8.7s and also the 9.0s, you have the Leopard L44, the Radkampfwagen running around, the Baglet, the Leopard A1A1, you also have the TAM, the Gepard thrown in there, and then just to top it off with the pudding and pie, the G91R3, giving you a little bit from the air, and now the R4 as well as a premium. So Yeah, that lineup for Germany is disgusting, and I feel like stuff like the T-55AM have really suffered because of it. But that's because the T-55AM has been one of the weakest of the top-tier premiums of each nation, and I still stick to what I said a year or two ago about the vehicle. If it gets down-tiered, it's a monster. It annihilates anything that it feels like, and it has a lot of fun. If it gets up-tiered, its armor stops mattering, and its speed is not good enough, and you start realizing that its gun depression and its reload are also not good enough, so you just get twatted. It's a boom or bust vehicle, and putting it down in BR makes it more of a boom, so we'll have to see if it makes a big difference for it. The KPZ-70 going up to 9.3 is justified once it got its reload buff to 5 seconds. It became an incredibly strong vehicle, even though it was already a strong vehicle, but it also got buffed from all the other stuff I just talked about before. The G91, the Radkampfwagen, the L44. All of these things gave you different playstyles that you could enjoy with Germany, and therefore a lot of people played that BR. For me personally, I have insane win rates playing stuff like the Baglet and the Leopard A1A1, thanks to, doing well in those vehicles, but also just having teams of 9.0s basically from Germany annihilating 8.3 and 8.7 teams from other nations. So breaking that lineup up, I think, is a positive. The XM803 and the MBT-70 are also going up, so the XM803 to 9.0 and the MBT-70 to 9.3. Both of these vehicles got a reload buff in this update. They're now down to, it's either 6 or 7.5 seconds, I can't remember exactly, but the main thing is, yes, they should be going up as well. They are incredibly good vehicles, and hopefully this gives a little bit of breathing room to 8.0, which is one of those BRs which has a lot of very fun and competitive vehicles, and it actually worked really well with 7.7. 7.7 and 8.0 is a really nice little BR bracket, but it's been hounded by these 9.0 vehicles for too long, and I'm hoping that now they get a little bit of a breather. The Reggiani 2005 is also, as I said, going down to 5.3 from 6.0. Really depends on what its flight performance is, but with this drastic of a BR change, it can't be good for it. Customization-wise, the helmet decorations for China and Sweden, with the possibility of receiving them for performing tasks and purchase for GE, have been added. Hell yeah! So we can get them probably in the Warbond shop now. The achievements for the Italian fleet have been added. Good stuff. Makes sense with the Italians being added too. Decals for Swedish aviation and ground vehicles with the possibility of receiving them for performing tasks and purchase for GE have been added. Good stuff. You can get your Swedish Sabo waifu. Player icons for Swedish crew with the possibility of receiving them for performing tasks has also been added. And then we have some interface changes. So in the hint for most air-to-air missiles, the maximum speed has been fixed. Good. And in the main menu, in the help section, you can now see the changelog. And for Windows and Mac OS, when activated multifunction menu, full control over your vehicle is now available, so you don't get stunted by using it. And in the multifunction menu are not available grade points, which are not to be applied to the current player's vehicles. They've also reworked the suspended weaponry menu. If you want to have a look at it, please do. I think it takes up a lot of the screen. I'll give it that, but I think overall it does look visually appealing. And I know a lot of people want like fully customizable loadouts. I don't think you understand how much of a balancing issue that would be in the game in its entirety. So I would rather stick to predetermined loadouts, but with this cool suspended weaponry menu. Then we have a bunch of changes to game mechanics, which of course are important as well. The new game mechanics has been added. Target designation inside a squad. You can specify a point on the surface through a third-person view, and by using the sight or binoculars for your squad members, the target designation will also be duplicated on the minimap. You can do it when using aircraft or ground vehicles. To do this, you need to assign the specific key in the control settings. In general, the the target point will now displayed to your squad members with a small random accuracy deviation, which varies depending on the distance of the point. Maximum error value is 15 meters, so it's not something, you're not going to miss by that far. Like, that's what, 2 tank lengths, so that's really nothing at maximum. So yeah, this is another way of being able to tell your squad mates where stuff is. Obviously, before you only had attention to the map, and attention to the map was incredibly ambiguous on what was going on. Whereas if you do this, it's a lot more straightforward, it's a lot more obvious where to look, because it shows you not just on the minimap, but also while you're looking at the area. And the fact you can do it from planes as well. So more information is power, and just doing this between squad mates I think is good. I think they should also try and expand it to stuff like squadron battles and also platoons and things like that for stuff such as World War mode, and I think that would be fun too. The cycle launch options for flares has been added. Number of flares in one cycle, period of cycle, and period between cycles can be set in options. So this is basically just like a bomb series or flare series, so you can just hold down the key and let out as many flares as you want instead of having to tap it over and over again. Flare launch can be enabled, disabled in more, the missile approaching warning system mode. I don't know why you'd want to do that. New mechanics for locating the last enemy vehicle have been added to Air RB. It will activate after 15 minutes from when the mission begins, and only a single last player is left. It marks a sector on the map corresponding to the position of the last player for the opposing team. The indicator will be updated every 20 seconds. So this is basically to just stop people from having to constantly use Avengers and blind hunts, and be able to find the enemy who is either just space climbing or just AFK. So I think these are positive. It also shows to me that Gaijin basically wants these aerialistic games to not last more than about 20 minutes. So, I don't know, it seems weird to have the whole 60-minute timer. But if you have one person left on each team, does that mean that you just get marked constantly as both players? That's something that, I don't know, I'd have to ask, but yeah. I think this is a positive change. It's kind of one of those necessary evil things. I know a lot of people want to be sneaky. I know a lot of people want to be, von Richthofen and staying in the clouds and seeing people over them and then, dive down and the element of surprise and annihilate them and win the match that way. But you've got to remember that is a 1% opportunity most of the time, whereas what this is looking to fix is the 99% of times when people go and space climb or just go AFK to prolong the match. The invulnerability of the respawn points will be disabled when you artillery strike. I think that's a good move. Shows that you are being proactive, so therefore, you shouldn't be invulnerable when you use it. In ground battles, in RB game mode, the parameters of active scouting has been changed. So they've delay between successful uses is 6 seconds, delay between failed uses is 45, and duration of the marker for the spotted enemy is 45 seconds. So this means now... So delay between successful uses is 6 seconds, and the duration of the marker for the spotted enemy is 45 seconds. So that means that you can technically now get off about 7 active scouts at the same time. That's really cool. Before it was limited to 3. Now we're up to 7. So now you can spot half an enemy team at once as a scout. I think this is awesome. I'm a big proponent of scouting, mainly the same reason why I'm a big proponent of the marker system. It means that you can give more information to your team in a skillful way, and also it gives the ability for tanks which may not be that good to have an actual use. So it's nice to see it get a buff. I think it should also get a buff in the amount of rewards that you earn from it as well, but that is a separate story. The basic cost for respawns for ground RB have been changed for the following vehicles. Let's see if there is a common theme. So, the automatic's going down, the ADATS is going down, and the WZ is going up. So the WZ is being seen as more of a tank destroyer, kind of like the automatic is, and the ADATS is going down. I'm guessing it's not been as powerful as what we've seen before. The Chaffee's going up, but only by 10-20 points, so won't really make too much of a difference. If you want to get in a plane with it, you can. The PT-76B is going up, which is a surprise, but I suppose that thing has stabilizer and heat, so makes it a little bit more useful. The BMP-3 and the Object 685 are going down. I mean, it's nice, but that makes me think of another point. The 685 and the BMP-3 are both like 390,000 RP. It's ridiculous that they're 390,000 RP. They're 8.7 vehicles. I think it would be much better dropping their RP costs than stuff like their base respawn costs, because then you would see more of them being played, so you could get more statistics on them, and therefore see them more in battles. I would drop them to at least 250,000 if it was me. The Type 89 is also going down. The PT-76 for China is going down. That thing was 150? God damn. The Type 63 one was also 150 and the Type 62 was 150. ZBD86 is now down to 110. So what they're doing across the board is the majority of these, they're making light tanks a lot easier to get into, and they're making some of the AAs a lot easier to get into, so now there is more of a reason to take them instead of over something like a medium. Obviously, a few of them are going up, but they're definitely not going up as much as stuff is going down. So this means that there should be more respawns running around, there should be more people on the map, there should be more actions going on, which I think is overall a positive, if I'm going to be honest with you, because it pretty much means that there's just going to be more people playing for longer time, therefore extending matches, and yes, if you don't do very well, then your SL repair costs are going to get hit, but at the same time, you're going to get more IP out of these changes. They're also lowering the Horton, which I really don't like. The Horton 229 is one of those vehicles that has the ability in the correct hands to take over the game. And I would like it left kind of in a dumpster somewhere to be able to do that. I'd rather people use the Polk, use the Arado, use the U1. I think those machines take a lot more skill than the Horton, and the Horton, yeah, it's just not great. But yeah, let's have a look at the changes to the PlayStation platform, because I've heard some very good things recently, which is good. The initial support for touchpad gestures has been added. Tap, flick left, right, up and down. Gestures can be assigned to various in-game actions like any other button. Lovely stuff. More options is good. Touchpad tap no longer conflicts with LMB click, making it an independent action bindable in control settings. Good. Pitch to zoom can now be used to zoom the view in the hangar. Always nice, more functionality. Basically, all of these are just more functionality, aren't they? Toggle, use touchpad framing, has been added to common controls for those who prefer legacy touchpad behavior. A new option, cross-platform gameplay, has been added. When disabled, will limit matchmaking to PlayStation 4 players only. Right, so you can now choose to only play with PlayStation players if you want to. I feel like that's just kind of limiting it, but I suppose if you think, oh, how dare those PC players have access to ULQ? How dare they have access to keyboards? Then maybe I can understand. Then they've given you an option to fix that. The option only PlayStation 4 players and leaderboards has been added. That's cool, so you can see how you stand up to your fellow console warriors. The option to disable cross-platform communication has been added. Users who have chosen this option will only see text messages from other PlayStation 4 users. In-game voice chat will be disabled. These players can use the PlayStation 4 party functionality. Lovely stuff. PlayStation 4 players who linked an email to their account and entered the PC version of the game can no longer spend Golden Eagles in the PC version of the game. The premium accounts included in the PlayStation Store packs will also not be transferred to the PC version. However, premium accounts purchased in the game and also purchases for Golden Eagles made in the PlayStation 4 version will be transferred to the PC version before. So that is incredibly important if you're a person who has switched platforms. Make sure to take that into account, otherwise you're going to well, you will definitely be losing some money through that. So, the changes specific to the Xbox One platform, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One players can now meet each other in battles. Hallelujah! Praise the Lord! We have finally got a little bit more parity, which means that, look, now Xbox One players have access to simulator battles and World War game mode during the current season, and now available. That is so good, man. Oh my god, that is wonderful news. That is the best thing in this update. The fact that now, as a community, PC players, PlayStation players, Xbox One players, we can all play together, and that means that Xbox players especially, and also PS4 players, but mainly Xbox players, can get access to all of the features that everybody else has been able to enjoy for so long. This is a wonderful moment. It is... I don't think you understand how great this is. It means that, every member of the community can be at least starting on an equal footing. Wonderful stuff. I'm so happy about that. Oh, that's so good. So the graphical changes as well. So the mechanism of the indication on the hood of modern battle helicopters has been improved. Now the indication will be displayed according to the physical principles of such devices. That's kind of interesting. And then a bunch of sound changes. So new sound events for all machine guns, for ground vehicles and naval vessels has been created. The principle of sound formation is burst fire has been changed. Now it is a sequence of single shots, and in the past it was a pre-render of the whole burst. We'll have to see if that cuts between the sounds, because that was the issue with the old one. Then changes in the direction of greater sound integrity and increasing dynamics have been made to the sound events of ground vehicle engines. They've also changed the authentic sounds for the T-34, and the T-72. The shockwave from supersonic aircraft flying sounds over is more obvious. Previously it wasn't sufficiently distinguished among other engine sound events. Just make sure it's not the same sound that the A2D or the Wyvern make, because that stuff literally gives me headaches. A new sound event for the suspension of wheeled vehicles has been added. Nice. The dynamic sound system for wheel track friction on the surface, depending on its type, has been added for ground vehicles. Oh, that's wonderful. So now we'll be able to tell, what terrain that we're on and stuff like that. The following aircraft cannons have also given their new sound design: M61, M61A1, and the JM61A1. So these are all the guns from the new F-104s. So that makes sense. So controls. Cursor control speed has been removed. It had no effect for some time already, but was still visible in the UI. Oh, okay. So they're just getting rid of something which is not used or doesn't work. Mouse moving toggle has been moved from aircraft controls to common controls since it affects all vehicles. Lovely. A bug that caused the mouse aim control mode to be forcibly selected when loading a previously saved control preset has been fixed. Okay, so that's nice too. So this set of changelogs, there's a lot of information here, there's a lot of wonderful things, and I'm sure, as with every major update, there will be bugs which come with it. Make sure, if you do find some bugs, to report it on the official forums, but I just want to say, the AirRB changes have got me hyped. I'm really looking forward to playing through that. The new Italian naval stuff I'm looking forward to, and the fact that now we have Xbox, PlayStation, and PC players all able to be in the same match together and to play with each other and against each other is a groundbreaking moment for War Thunder. And it is just a beautiful thing. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Eugene's Terry, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.